Thank you very much, everybody. Lovely to see some of you again. Welcome to our second podcast/webinar in our three-part series of quick 20-minute chats around this subject of getting back to work or a normal environment in the current situation. Last week, we spoke with Chantel Jones from the Recruitment Events Company, who gave us some fantastic insight into the current situation out there amongst companies. How are they feeling, what their reactions have been, and ultimately what we'll have to adapt in the immediate future. If you want to catch up on that, it will be available on Access First LinkedIn page. Today, I have the honour of introducing Eric Simpson to the stage with his drum kit there. Eric, I'll let you introduce yourself in a second, but just quickly to sum up what we're going to talk through today, we shall be focusing on Eric's outlook with regards to what's next for teams forming at this moment in time, possibly due to reshifts in roles or staff members moving around business units. And we will explore this subject of change that obviously we're in full swing of today and will probably continue to experience for the foreseeable future. We'll draw upon Eric's breadth of experience, including his time as Head of Recruitment Projects and Organisational Change at Transport for London. So, Eric, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Right, yes. So, morning, everyone. I'm conscious where I appear to be looking, so I'm going to do the best I can to look actually at that camera, so it looks like I'm looking at you. But I am a resourcing and recruitment professional. It's been 20 years up until this pause. I've most recently been at Transport for London, managing teams across a number of disciplines: operational, professional, often specialising. I specialised in engineering for a number of years, and for a period doing organisational change and recruitment projects arising from it. Most recently, I was looking after onboarding, because that became a sort of a topic of interest for business over the last 3 years or so. And I looked after that team for the last 3 years, up until my time there came to an end at the end of February.
Brilliant. And how have you been doing during this confinement, other than learning the drums? What's been the situation with your work?
Yeah, so the impact for a lot of people, I suppose, was you build momentum, and I was quite up to speed with what was coming next on a number of projects, and the full lockdown, of course, interrupted that quite severely. As I was saying earlier, we haven't left the property since the middle of March, but we were all set up to work from home, so that was kind of okay. So I was able to focus on helping the rest of the family get used to business as usual, working from home, which is an interesting thing, because when people work from home full time, it brings other matters into focus. What tech do people have? How's the broadband performing? What locations are people going to be working from? Who's in what bedroom and who's in the back room, as I am now. Those sorts of things, all very interesting. But the impact on the work, of course, is that it all has to go virtual, because you can no longer go to your meetups program, your co-working spaces to meet your people. You do more face-to-face than I think people necessarily realise. Until it stops, and when it stops, of course the reason that it stopped was a bit of a shock as well, because now you've got to think of your health, the health of your family and your loved ones, and whether you might have to do something about that, and you've got to build that actually becomes the priority. So that's been the big challenge. It's been an interesting one, an interesting one to get your head around.
And tell us, what do you think will happen in the next few months for HR and the recruitment industry? Will, in your opinion, people continue to freeze hiring? Will their strategy change completely? What are you seeing going on?
I think it's entirely logical, and it won't surprise anybody to hear the term, recruitment freeze, and for things to go on hold quite severely. We always felt that the term freeze is a little bit risky, but understandable, because it can imply a feeling of a bit panic. We always felt that it risked our kind of employer brand if we appear to be panicked by, whatever kind of a shock should come around. And, we've been dealing with financial pressures for a lot of years now. And that would occasionally mean if there were a change of priorities, it would mean, hang on a minute, we're going to have to stop that while we do something else, a major overrunning project is not an uncommon thing. So you'd have to consider that, but you'd also have to consider that it takes you a long time to build your employer brand and get some momentum behind it to the point where it's flowing and you're not actually struggling to recruit even for your hardest disciplines. If you suddenly slam the brakes on and start talking about a freeze, it can worry people, because you can look disorganized, as if it's caught you out and you're just not ready. So a pause to review is something that is kind of business as usual for, I suspect, quite a few sophisticated businesses and well-established businesses. You will occasionally just stop, have a look again, and make sure that you're recruiting where you should, how you should, and that you're spending the money correctly to get the right things done. Also, you want to make sure that you do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So you don't just stop recruiting everything and miss the opportunity to recruit key skills, really important people that you spend some time finding. So you have to be careful for that. And then lastly, I would say, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of sort of emotional investment to make a job application at any level, but particularly when you're talking about rare skills. So you just slam the brakes on, it's like, that doesn't matter. So this process has been a long one. Thank you very much. However, it just got difficult. So it's a hard stop and then nothing. So I think those kind of sum up the challenges, really.
Yeah. How about in terms of priorities post-pandemic for HR teams, do you think?
Well, it's an opportunity. It's a big opportunity. Those who I believe are able to show that they've adjusted well to the pressures and to the change, they will come back soonest and strongest. So for HR and for recruitment within HR, I think there are two big priorities. The restart is the obvious one, getting the economy moving again, putting as many teams back together and staff back to work safely and with confidence as is possible. HR's got an opportunity to play a key role there by making sure that businesses get the maximum value out of talent. And of course, and I preach quite strongly, use the technology that you've got. Don't just use your skills and your knowledge, use the technology that you've got. So I expect to see tools such as your own come into sharper focus now, because you need to provide the assurance for your client that you're hiring the right people and for the best of reasons. And the best one of those is immediate contribution and a good one. So helping businesses get the maximum value from talent, new and existing, will be at the top of that list, I should imagine, at least for the recruitment bit. But for HR in general, it's all around the change, as you were saying. Teams and individuals may need to be repurposed or refocused according to their skills and talents and their knowledge and business priorities and pressures now. And it's really important to do that in order to avoid unnecessary and expensive redundancies. So again, it's all about babies out with the bathwater. You don't lose people who could actually help you get out of this. The question is, how will you know? Because so much of that is situational. People who might not have presented as being the first go-to, people in the previous context of how things were going before, might look a lot different now that we're under the pressure that we're under. Different strengths may emerge and they may become the very people that you need most. So you've got to think of that carefully. I'd just sum up by saying I think it's it's overdue, but it's time now to realize and recognize what the true potential of talent actually is that you have and what it can actually do for you. Second one, I think there's quite a strong feeling now about raising the bar around equality and inclusion.
Yeah, certainly.
They always do and always will is, talent is what talent is. It's not what it looks like or what its demographic is. It's talent, and it's useful, and you need it, and you need it now, and you need to get the best value out of it that you possibly can. So while we're all talking about what's fair and what's inclusive, I tend to take, forgive me for this, quite a pragmatic operational point of view, and that is, if you're useful, I might need you for something, and I need to look under every rock, and I need to consider every possibility of how I can get some useful help out of you, Yeah. And that is one really big headline for me, and quite a lot of people, quite a few people I know, my networks and everything, are all very focused on that as an opportunity.
Very well said. So when thinking about getting teams back together post-COVID, what difficulties, maybe based upon your previous experience in these types of situations, what difficulties do you think companies and managers will come across?
Well, right now, I mean, let's not lowball the challenge. This will be difficult. It's immediate and it's pressurized, so it's going to be difficult. The way that you drifted along in your management position, doing your day-to-day and business as usual, just got a fire lit under it. So no one's pretending that it's going to be easy. But there is one obvious priority, and of course that's people, and it's people in terms of their well-being, in terms of their self, who they actually are, how they feel, before what they do. Yeah, we'll get to what they do, but we've just had a crisis of a public health emergency. Lives were at risk. Unfortunately, some were lost. So that really has to be the foundation of everything that happens. So managers will need to focus on their accountabilities for health, well-being, and for safety in its clearest sense. And they'll need to demonstrate sincere and genuine empathy, and above all, they'll need to be authentic, because this is the realest thing. Even the worst recession you've ever been through, and I've been through some, they affect people in different ways. For some people, it's okay, this has got a little bit difficult, but it's all right, I'll change my focus and we'll be fine. This has been about mortality, life, actual life and death in everybody's home. As I say, we've been shielding here. We had to think very carefully about what we do and how we do it. Now, when people go back to work, don't expect that that's suddenly all gone away. If anything, it becomes more real. Unfortunately, there were casualties in my own office after I'd left, but I heard all about them. That will be in people's minds as they go back. Is it safe? How do we work together to make sure it is safe? Because if it isn't, it affects my family, my friends, my loved ones. I need to have that feeling that I can rely on what's happening and that it is safe. So trust and confidence is critical for a successful recovery. It starts and is built by management and from the very top. I'll throw in a little quote, if you don't mind. I've used quite often down the years. I think it was Richard Branson. He said, "How you treat your staff is how you treat your customers." If people are nervous and if they don't absolutely genuinely feel like you've got them and they're safe in your hands, that will be reflected in the way they perform. You can't do your best work if you don't feel good, and that is only the responsibility of managers and leaders.
Brilliant.
In terms of change, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to ask you in terms of change, go for it. So in terms of the change that we see inevitably you know, kind of continuing for the foreseeable future. What's your take on that?
Well, we're now facing the biggest and most sensitive and resonant change program that anyone's been involved in, because that's what everything means. The way that we work, the way that we interact with the world, we interact with each other, everything is changing. There you've got change, you'll have business and process change, you'll have people change, because some of your people will still be with you and some of them will not, some will be replaced. But most of all, it's behavior change, because we've all got to do things differently. We're changing not just how we work, but even how we live, and maybe even permanently. And as long as business understands that this mostly about change, we're in with a good chance, as long as we focus on what it is we're really dealing with in the business context. They're not all massively complex. Some of them are basic, simple, easy to use. If you do that and get a hold of those, then you're probably going to be in a good place.
But deep-rooted change takes a long time to actually change, right? I.e., ideas and concepts that are really profound within a business, to change those up. Do you see a problem maybe with it taking so much time?
Well, it will be a problem for some, because unless you've got quite a lot of experience in managing change, then you'll need a bit of a warm-up. You'll need some time to get your head around how to do it, who will do it, engaging with them, creating those teams and your methodology and approach to getting through it all. That will take some people some time, potentially, and especially if you overthink it. So the key thing is, you have to act as quickly and decisively as you can, but doing so securely. It will feel like speed if it's decisive, if there is clarity, if you're bringing people along with you at every step and they understand exactly where you are, where they are, and what every step involves. As long as you're clear and you're open and you're honest and you're genuine and you're sincere, it will feel like speed, even if it's taking a while. Of course, the risk is that things are moving very much more quickly now, because our economy came to a stop overnight. We need to get it moving again really very quickly. So people will feel that pressure to be quick. But as I say, that is a balance. Old saying, more haste, less speed. So you can't rush, but you have got to get on with it and show that you're getting on with it. Get your quick wins, get that done, get your housekeeping done, and leave yourself some time and bandwidth for the stuff that's more complicated.
Fantastic. Final question. Potential solution to these difficulties, what do you reckon? How, if you were in the position, how would you go about trying to solve them?
Well, as I think I just alluded to, that you need to demonstrate, companies and managers, leaders from the top, brands, etc. You'll need to demonstrate planning and forethought, ongoing. You need to be able to show people that you're thinking it through at all times. You know, starting with the basics. Are you safe? Have I got your back around this? Can you be confident that you can get on with your work without being at risk? How well have you thought that through? I suspect most people are familiar with the government's approach in terms of a legal requirement to do risk assessments. Those are things that people used to dismiss as health and safety, you know, it's a bit serious.
100% seen that.
Yeah, you know. So now you've got a reason to focus. So, I mean, it's in my background. It's a long time ago, so it's a language that I speak. It's natural for me. But for a lot of people, it wasn't and still isn't. But you've got to get your head around it now. And the more people can see you doing that, the more confident they will feel in being able to relax and do whatever job I hope is still there for them. So it's demonstrating the planning and the forethought, but above all, people priority and leadership is, yeah, I've got this, you're coming with us, with me, and it's going to work out with your help. The previous attitudes to things like well-being and engagement, they were slightly controversial. This seen as bonus activities a little bit, as in, okay, we've got BAU, our business performs, we do the numbers, but not only that, we're pretty nice people as well, and we want you to believe that we're nice people as well. And it's the as well bit that I always had the difficulty with, because it's not as well, it's basic, it's fundamental, it's where we begin. You know, it's at the heart of what you of the way that you should be operating. And now, of course, the situation that we find ourselves in now has brought that to the very top of the list. People can see now, people first is actually, you've got nothing without that. So I don't just have to advocate it anymore. You've seen it played out now. So engagement hasn't gone away, but you've got to weaponize it now. You can no longer just use it as, you know, bonus stuff in your performance. You know, people actually like working here, they're engaged with the mission. This is not bonus stuff anymore. Without it, we could potentially lose a business.
Essentially be the essential right now.
Yeah, that's it.
I guess be a tick box activity. Dare I use that?
That's it. And I, you know, part of the pragmatism and the openness and the genuine sincerity that we need from business now, well, they wouldn't have done it before. You know, no one was going to say before, okay, it was kind of additional. It was, what else can we do, you know, to look a little bit better? I don't think too many people would have been happy to admit that before. But if you look at the escalation in people issues that we've had over the last time for honesty. Now's the time to put your hand up and say, yeah, we're not perfect and we haven't been perfect for a while, but please understand we do mean as long, of course, as you do. But I'll just finish on that with, I think that leadership performance should be measured through the people first thing from the top of the list. So it's not unusual at all when you get to the people first stage to see things like, okay, let's have a people item at the top of the agenda for every team meeting and things like that. That's not unusual. But it's got to feel different now. It's got to feel like, well, we're not just doing this because it's the new priority. We're doing it because it matters.
Fantastic. Eric, thank you very, very, very much. Really insightful stuff. I guess just to sum up, correct me if I'm wrong, top priorities for HR team will be getting ultimately their economy restarting again, managing new teams that may be forming. But in addition, with the global focus, they'll also have to be looking at raising the bar on equality and inclusion. Equally, as you mentioned, a huge focus on health and well-being of staff, and not necessarily just for show, but with real kind of action points to follow, and ultimately make that at the centre of their businesses. And the biggest challenge you mentioned will be the period of change that we're currently in and the change to come. I loved your reference actually to the 3 types of change. For change's sake, change for appearance's sake, and change for efficiency's sake. I think that's certainly something that we can all take away and start to think about in terms of ourselves and our own development, but also in the context of our workplace and what we're going to kind of do about it or contribute to. So, yes.
We have a minute. It's such very, very light. I mean, it's very topical right now. As you were saying, I said, you get change for change's sake. What's the latest big idea? Let's change some appearance's sake. And the naughty step for that right now. A lot of people on the naughty step.
Yeah.
It looks like change for appearance's sake, but they're possibly not all guilty. Some of them will be to follow up and demonstrate that by backing the words with the actions, change for appearances you've been forced to, even by something as serious as this. Efficiency's sake, most there's no customers, you've got to do it, but that doesn't mean you can't bring people along. And right now, COVID, people are really worried, stuff you might have kept away from them, can't do that now. Everybody's got to be involved.
100%. Brilliant. Eric, thank you very, very much. Listeners, the floor is now yours. Feel free to ask Eric any questions that you have. I see, no pressure. I see that we've got two here. So first up, what do you foresee happening if a business does not understand or has trouble embracing this change? Which actually I'm guessing could happen relatively often.
Can I have some thinking time? I'm joking, of course. What do I foresee happening? Well, put simply, for many businesses, this challenge is if we can meet this challenge, we survive. We maybe can't meet this challenge, we don't survive. So if a business struggles to deal, there's a speed issue, and the question is the pace of decline. It's how long does it take for things to go? Initially, it's terminal. Looked at positively in context, you look at the situation that's around us now, you grasp the nettles where you have to, including facing the more challenging and the difficult questions, the bits where we have to put our hands up and say, yeah, those people they'll come back stronger. So, but I always say, again, there are simple tools to help you deal with this. Google is your friend. You'd be surprised what's out there. I've got my own personal favorites. And just find the people who've got the experience, whoever they are. Doesn't matter if they're 3 levels below you in the organization or they work for another organization. Find them and get the simple bits into a box and get to work.
Brilliant. Second question, any tips on how to shift a team's priority to people when it previously may not have been the case? Do you want some more thinking time?
Right. I think we may have covered it, actually. I think
yeah, we have kind of.
Yeah, that clarity, that honesty, the openness of saying, okay, we know what we need to do now, and we know you're going to spot that it wasn't always that way. We do know that. However, we recognize the need for the paradigm shift, the shift in the way we think, the shift in the way that we act. We recognize the need for that. There isn't anyone, I don't think you'll find, that doesn't agree that this is a people first challenge. Yeah. We know your budget's seriously under pressure. We know that. We know that your business context has changed massively. We know all those operational things is what we used to do. It's business as usual. But first, think of the people. That's what this crisis has been all about. And that theme needs to be echoed. So that's the first thing that people need to do to shift that emphasis genuinely. And then it's don't drop it. Don't drop it once it's clear that you've gotten through it. You've survived, you're okay, you've still got a business, it's smaller, but you can pay the wages of those you've got left, or you know what the road is going to be to adjusting to the new, the new context. I'm avoiding saying the new normal because somebody went on LinkedIn and said it's bad, and that you shouldn't say that because it's not. This is not normal, so don't call it the new normal. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, who knows what the future will hold, but I have no problem with the phrase new normal, the new norm.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
it will become the normal, won't it?
yeah, whatever term you want to use to describe it, yeah, adjust to it and don't drop the people stuff once it's clear, okay, we're back and it's okay, so now let's move on. Because as soon as you do that, people will know. As soon as you do that, and it will all come back and the damage will be permanent. So I would say, again, some simple tools there. Don't just whack things up the agenda of your team meeting and stuff, but use heat maps, temperature checks. Always know how people are feeling. Ask them every day, every week, every period, financial period, if that's how you run things. Feedback loops, give them the channels they need. Don't always make it their manager if it doesn't have to be. Just find someone that your staff are happy to talk to and who is happy to talk to you. Do that, give them whatever channel they are comfortable with to let you know how they're feeling, and then manage that. Some will find that not so easy.
Brilliant. Eric, thank you very, very much for your input today. And listeners, thank you very, very much for your time. We'll send you out a copy of the podcast, and hopefully we will see you all next week for our final session with Andrea from PwC, where we will be speaking about how to get your hiring success back on track with specific reference to recruitment plans and employer branding. So, Eric, I'll let you get back to your drums.
Jumping on there now. I've just thought of a tune. The tune just popped into my head, so I'm jumping on there now once the coffee's gone.
Well, for those who want to listen in, stay on. No, I'm joking. No pressure.
That's a lot of wires. That's a lot of wires.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Eric. Have a lovely day and a lovely weekend. Cheers.
Speak soon.
Bye.